Look at this car from the front or the rear and it looks like any other BMW 3 Series unless of course you look keenly. But look at the side and this car looks quite different. And that is because this is the BMW 3 Series Gran Limousine facelift. This car is longer than the standard 3 Series by 110 millimeters, but more importantly, all of that length has been added in one place. And that is here, the wheelbase, more specifically towards the rear, which definitely means that the rear seat is going to be roomier, have more space, but we'll come back to that later. More importantly, this is a BMW 3 Series. And now, with this additional length and weight, is it still going to be a fun car to drive or not? So let's find out if this car is still the desire of an enthusiast or just the need of a person struggling with their midlife crisis. Up front, the face looks really sharp, sleeker headlamps, the internals are again updated, gives the car a sharp look. The bumpers have a lot of sharp creases and thankfully BMW has not gone in for that ugly big grille. It has a nice sleek looking grille with these chrome contours, looks good. At the rear also the changes aren't really big, but again they are subtle, and as you can see these sleek tail lamps, especially when lit with this protruding design, look really nice. The body panels again sharp, go well with the sporty design of the car. You also have this diffuser given here. The only thing that feels a little bit out of place is the fact that this could have been probably given in a different or a contrasting color. All blue looks a little too plasticky. From the side, the 3 Series Gran Limousine looks pretty much like you would expect a 3 Series to be. Got a long hood, sits low, it's got these nice 18-inch alloy wheels, looks the part. But when you move back, well, that's when you see the additional length of the car. That's when you can make out that this is a really long car. This sort of takes away the sporty appeal that a standard 3 Series has, but nonetheless, it continues to be one of the better looking cars in its segment. Alright, so now that we're done with the design, let's talk about the cabin experience of the 3 Series Gran Limousine facelift. But before we do that, if you've made it this far, you clearly are liking this video, so please hit that subscribe button. Also, click on that little bell icon so that you can stay updated with all our forthcoming videos. Now coming to the cabin experience of this car, well, this is an area where there is a big difference, and that is primarily because of the screen here. Now in this car what you get is a curved display. It's a single unit which houses both the instrument cluster as well as the infotainment screen, and both are of different sizes, and the best part is it just looks fabulous. The overall fit and finish is spot on. It gives the cabin a very nice, rich, premium feel. And that's exactly what any owner would want in this particular car or price segment. So in that respect, yeah, I mean, full marks to the designers here. Even the resolution on both of these screens is brilliant. The interface, if you look at the overall, the user interface, again, it's nice. The instrument cluster itself, I've been saying that in a lot of BMW cars earlier also, that this new design, well, it gives you a lot of information, but it just looks a little too cluttered. This one, again, yeah, I think it's a good looking instrument cluster, gives you all the information. You can also see what kind of G-forces you're pulling through the corners, and you can also customize the way it looks. Beyond that, you get wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. You also get inbuilt navigation, and you also get BMW's smart key, or you can say the digital key concept now. So you can either use a digital key, which will be a card like this, or you can configure your smartphone to act as a key. So that really makes the overall procedure and the operation of the car very convenient. Also, using the BMW My app, you can just control a lot of functions in your car from your smartphone, or you can also view a lot of information on your smartphone. So that again adds a lot more to the overall ownership or driving experience. Now moving away from these screens, if you look at the rest of the interior, again there also it just goes well with the premium positioning, the material quality, fitment quality, it's all well good in place. You also get a panoramic sunroof, happens to be the in thing in India these days. A normal sunroof just doesn't cut it out these days. Now, if you look at the overall, the feel for the driver with this steering wheel, chunky steering wheel, the paddle shifters, the curved display, the center console slightly tilted towards the driver, it all falls in place to be a proper BMW. I mean, that's what you expect from a 3 Series. But the big change inside this cabin is the addition in wheelbase, which I mentioned earlier, and that means more space at the back. So let's check that out first. And now let's talk about the main reason why you would end up buying the 3 Series Grand Limousine, and that's this additional space in the rear seat. Now, because of the additional wheelbase or the longer 110 wheelbase, there is a lot more room in the rear seat, and you can see, well, I have the driver's seat adjusted to my driving preference, and at 5 feet 8 inches when I'm sitting back, I have lots of space. Clearly, lots of knee room, leg room. I can easily slide my feet under the driver's seat. The seat itself is very nice. The cushioning is spot on. The under thigh support is brilliant, and the backrest angle again is good. The seat is wide, so you can actually have 3 people sitting here. The only problem here is that the center tunnel is extremely high, and that can be a bit of an inconvenience for the person sitting in the middle. But beyond that, if I look at the overall feel, well, I think this is a seat that you can easily be in for hours without feeling any stress or any kind of a problem. Even these cushions that you see here are super nice and very comfortable. So indeed, if you're buying this car because you want a car that is good to drive, but at the same time you can be chauffeur driven, or your family just has a good time in the rear seat, well, I think this really delivers and does the job. Where it could have been better though, well, if you look at the cars today in this segment, well, again, this luxury segment, people wouldn't mind if you could have some screen here on these seats, and well, a little more fancy gadgets. Well, that is becoming the norm today. I'm not a person who personally likes a lot of fancy gadgets, but yeah, even I would prefer having a screen here. And now let's move on to the driving part, very important bit, because this is where we'll find out if that additional length and weight has compromised the 3 Series fun and the kind of dynamics we associated with. Well, to start with, the start is pretty good. What we are driving here is, it's a petrol motor. You can opt between a petrol or a diesel, the diesel being a 320D motor, and well, of course, the less powerful one. This one is the petrol one. It's a 2-liter petrol engine. This variant we're driving right now is the M Sport variant, so it gets a lot of M Sport kit, the badging here, but not mechanically different. Now, in terms of facelift, when you compare it to the previous model, no major mechanical changes, not needed. It's a very nice, powerful motor, more than 250 horsepower, more than enough to move the mass that it's carrying. And of course, the engine is very refined and smooth. It doesn't sound that way when you listen to the engine note, especially when idling from the outside. But once you get inside the cabin, it's very silent, very smooth, no unwanted sound filtering inside the cabin. So good on that part. Start driving, and well, it's a personal problem. I came across something I didn't quite like, and that's the driving selector has gone. They have traded in for this new mechanism, which is sort of a small lever that you just push or pull around. And I mean, yeah, it might look fancy to some people, but the BMW is all about driving, and that drive selector, it just used to feel good, used to give you that kind of a old school charm. So that's something I'm missing here. But let's talk about the driving part. The motor will move off the line, and there's very little lag. It's a turbocharged motor, but again, BMW, it's a twin turbo charge motor, and BMW has been doing these really well over the years. So you expect it not to have any significant lag, and that's exactly what you get. Off the line acceleration is clean. Even in-gear acceleration is very impressive. You also get an 8-speed automatic gearbox, which has been paired really well to the engine, and as a result of that, the shifts are almost seamless. Upshifts, downshifts, they all happen in a snap. and whenever you push pedal to the metal, the engine is quick to respond. The transmission again shows no lag, and the car just lunges forward with a sense of agility. So that is something nice, that is something you expect in a BMW, and this car just carries it forward. In terms of handling and stability, now this is the big one because the car is heavier, it's longer, so that changes the overall dynamics. And surprisingly, when you push this car hard around corners, you realize that somehow the BMW engineers have been able to find some witchcraft to ensure that this car doesn't lose any significant amount of handling prowess compared to the standard 3 Series, and that's just phenomenal. Despite the additional weight and the size, this car doesn't mind going around corners at a rapid speed. You can chuck it into a series of corners, it will just take that happily. You can go around high speed corners with ease. The grip is there, the feel from the steering is there, the bite from the brake pedals is there. So all of the ingredients that you need to have confidence in the car, and then all of the ingredients that you need in the car to utilize your confidence and go fast, it's all there in this car. So really good on that part. You don't compromise the driving ability. Yes, when you're pushing it really hard, in a slight way you can realize the length making sort of a difference. There's a little more roll, there's a bit of hesitation, but it's only when you're going really close to the limit. In normal conditions, even if you're driving in a spirited manner on a hilly road, you'll barely notice the difference. Now coming to the ride quality part, well, this is where, in terms of being a comfortable car, this car is better than the standard 3 Series. It feels a little more softer than the standard 3 Series, and when you're going over surface undulations or potholes, it just feels a lot more composed. That translates into better cabin comfort. However, once you start going at high speeds, there is a bit of valleyiness, but you won't feel that even at highway speeds. You really need to go very quick to realize that there is a bit of an additional floaty feeling compared to the standard 3 Series. But beyond that, it's a comfortable car. The purpose of this car was to give additional comfort to the rear passengers, and it just nails that part. I just wish it had a little more gizmos, probably the screens and some fancy tech. But beyond that, it continues to be a proper 3 Series. It is fun to drive, and it is now more comfortable.